Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my podcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played for a decade with the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. And this is the Laidlaw and Allen Report, coming to you twice a week to talk about all things hockey. And Tom, let's start off with a little housekeeping here. Let's talk about what we got going. I know you want to talk about something you've got going with your True Grit.
So True Grit Life is going to put on its first ever ruck challenge. Anybody that's familiar with a ruck, it's a kind of a military term, more the rucksack. So it's really a backpack, and it's training for people in the military. They put weights in their backpack, and then they hike or run a certain distance. So we're going to have the first ever True Grit Life Ruck Challenge, brought to us by Elevate Nutrition, a brand that I'm involved in, and Warrior for Life Fund. That's a fund that's put together to actually, it's a really interesting project down in Virginia Beach. They have an ice rink there, and a lot of the military guys come back, men and women, and they've suffering from PTSD or whatever they're suffering from, and they've found a lot of benefits of going on the ice and playing hockey. So they've got an old rink there that we're trying to fix up for that. So that's the Warrior for Life Fund. So it's a Warrior for Life Fund, and Elevate Nutrition is going to be sponsors for that event. It's a 6-mile event. You can go to truegritlife.com to register for that. There's a training program. We've got a certified strength and conditioning specialist involved, and a Navy SEAL that's going to participate as well. So fun event. truegritlife.com, the first ever True Grit Life Ruck Challenge.
How much weight are you carrying in those knapsacks or the back?
Well, you know me, my ego. I think that I'm in the best shape of any person on the planet. So I'm going to try to load it up pretty good. And actually, the Navy SEAL guy, he's a young guy. He's in his early 30s. So we got a little competition, him and I. So we're trying to push ourselves. Probably in that range from 30 to 50 pounds we put in the backpack. So
wow, that's more than I want to carry. I don't want to carry that 10 feet, let alone 6 miles.
Actually, and you know what though, too, this is going to be in Connecticut here. We haven't finalized the date yet, but we're going to go live probably on Instagram and or Facebook, so even people that aren't in the area can participate with us as well. So,
well, I'll tune in to see how you're doing and all that. And I just want to promote, I'm doing another podcast with Bob Duff, the longtime Windsor Star columnist, and really one of the most notable hockey historians, in my opinion, in Canada. And what's interesting about this podcast is we do a regular podcast earlier in the week where it's similar to this one. We just talk about the events of the week, but we also do a betting podcast. And what's unique about that is Bob does a lot of writing for a lot of these betting websites, and we talk about some of the ways to sort of bet on hockey. And of course, that's pretty given the fact that we have legalized betting in this country now. It's a pretty current events sort of idea. And, we talk about like who's this year's St. Louis Blues. If you remember last year a guy saw what the odds were on the St. Louis Blues. And I believe he put $400 or $500 down, ended up winning $100,000. And we talk about that. We talk about the odds of winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, the odds of winning the scoring race. And we have an analytics betting expert on our show, Sasha, who is just terrific. And really, what I like about him is he speaks the analytics, but he also watches the game. He's a Canadian. He gets the whole hockey culture, and he factors everything into it when he gives his opinion. So, and you can go to hockeydebates.com and catch our schedule as well. And we're going to start, putting when our podcasts are going to appear on our Twitter feeds, and I'm by Kevin Allen. And also on our Facebook pages, and that's just Kevin Allen. So you can tune in there. But just a little housekeeping to let everyone know kind of what we're doing. And then, Tom, let's talk about what's going on. And, I sent you this idea of what to do today, and I loved your response. You said nice. And I knew exactly what they meant because, my suggestion for talking points today was, we want to each call out 2 general managers and tell them, it's time to make a move. It's time to do something. This is all about the fans. We're going to represent the fan bases of cities. And I'm guessing or maybe I don't know if I'm fearful or if I'm guessing that we're going to end up with similar twosome, but we'll see about who we're going to call out. But do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go ahead. You're up.
Okay, I'm up. Well, I'm going to call out Kyle Dubas, and the reason I am is that this Toronto team is just an entertaining, fun team to watch. Like, I'd love watching that team play. They can score some goals, and I like goals. I love the 1980s. I miss mistakes. There were a lot of mistakes in the 80s defensively, and we had a lot of fun watching the game back then because guys could light it up. Nobody could take advantage of a mistake like the Edmonton Oilers could, or the Mario Lemieux led Pittsburgh Penguins. It was just fun. It was fun back then. And now we have fewer mistakes, so it's harder to score goals. Well, guess what? This Toronto team can score some goals, Tom, but they're terrible defensively. Just absolutely terrible. Everybody knows what the problem is, and yet we haven't corrected it. Now, look, I've been around the game a long time. I get it. Good defensemen don't grow on trees, and they're hard to get. Teams that have them don't want to give them up. But I think it's time for the Maple Leafs to act and get aggressive and go out there and beat everyone to the punch on someone like a Brendan Dillon and just try to change this team. Everybody understands, including the Maple Leafs, that the Maple Leafs, the way they're configured now, cannot win the Stanley Cup. They're just not built for that. I mean, they're an entertaining team. They're a fun team. They're going to win some of those playoff games 6-4. They got to do something. I think they got to change a couple of their defensemen. What do they got to lose? I mean, seriously, they're not even in the playoffs yet. What do they have to lose? Yeah. So I'm calling out Kyle Dubas to step up and just act bold. I mean, that's all you want. Look, if you miss, you miss. But let's go ahead and try to do something and get this Maple Leafs team in the playoffs. If nothing else, for the entertainment value, they're a fun team to watch, Tom.
Okay, so right off the bat, you are wrong. Toronto should stay exactly the way they are. Kyle Dubas has built that team, contrary to maybe what a lot of other people think a team wins with, including me. I don't think a team can win with that style of play. So I agree with you on that front. But I believe that Kyle Dubas has said and has made the decision, this is how I'm going to build this team. These players here and the style they play is how I'm going to win. It may not be how St. Louis won. It may not be how Boston wins. It may not be how Washington wins, but this is how the Toronto Maple Leafs are built. And this is how they're going to win. So I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong and that I think some changes can be made, but I don't think he's going to do it. I think he believes that that's the team that he has built that can win, and he's going to stick with that team. And that's why he got that coach, because I think the coach, Sheldon Keefe, believes the same thing. I think he believes that that's what he can, that's how he wants to coach. That's the kind of players he wants. Now, these players do need to mature and get better defensively and more responsible. But I don't see him doing anything at all. I think they're going to stand tight and stick with the team they've got.
All right. And why don't you go with your first
okay.
one? Then we'll
Bill Guerin, the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah.
So Paul Fenton had come in. He made some moves, stuck with the coach they had. Now, Bill Guerin has been in there for 2 or 3 months now, and had a chance to take a look at this hockey team. I think this team, and we've said this before, I think they're close to being a really good hockey team, but to me, there's just something missing. There's a mix there in that locker room that they're similar to when St. Louis changed coaches last year. Bill and Craig Berube came in. The first thing he said is, we need to fix the locker room. I think in Minnesota, the locker room needs to be fixed. Bill Guerin has been there long enough. He was a character player when he played. And I think that he now has got a feel for that team, and something needs to change there. And I think it's that not just one guy to fix it. It's a mentality there. It's an attitude. It's an aura around the team. There's something missing, and he needs to change that. That may include changing the coach. That may be just trades, or it may be both.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think it's a chemistry issue there as well. I'm not sure that whatever Bill can do this year will be enough. I think that division is tough. It's going to make the playoffs in, but I think he's still trying to sort it out. I know you say he's been there a while, but he really has only been there half a season, trying to sort out what's wrong here. And that might be enough to kind of sort it out. But I think there's a teardown that's inevitable in Minnesota. I'm not sure they need a total rebuild. I just think they need to probably move out a quarter of the rosters, and we're hearing rumblings that that's going to happen. There's the rumblings that Zucker will be traded. There's rumblings even that a guy like Dumba might be moved.
How about a coaching change?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think anything is possible at this point. I think the owner likes the coach there. I think Bill Guerin likes it. It's hard not to like Bruce Boudreau, but at some point, if this team isn't going to respond, then maybe you just need a cleansing breath, and we all know what happens then. Then it's a coaching change. But I don't see it happening before the end of the season. Do you?
Well, I'm thinking. I'm looking at them right now, and they're 52 points, so at 5 points out of a playoff spot. And they really, they've had some stretches where they're awful, some stretches where they played really well. I just think that team is, again, when I watch them, I'm going like, come on, guys, wake up. There's more there to your game. What is missing with that team? And to me, if you're 5 points, if you're going to make a change and something comes available now, as teams drop out of contention, are they willing to move more people? I mean, look at the Rangers. Like, what is their decision? Are they going to get Chris Kreider signed, or are they not get Chris Kreider signed? Why would Minnesota not get involved with that if they think that because it isn't just, to me, for this season. If you think you can get Chris Kreider signed to a new contract, then why not go get Chris Kreider now if I'm Minnesota? Why is it just limited to the Boston Bruins or certain other teams? If I'm Minnesota, why am I just staying out of the – I'm not in the hunt. I'm not showing my fans. I'm not showing the team that I'm thinking I want to win by making some move.
So you'd go even in rentals. I think they're looking at hockey trades is what I'm hearing through the grapevine. But, would you go rentals if you were Bill Guerin?
No, I don't think I'd go rentals. If I'd go to Chris Kreider, if I knew I could get him signed. If I go to the Rangers and say, okay, listen, what's it going to take to sign? Do you let us talk to him to see what it takes to get signed? Will he agree to a deal right away? That kind of thing. They get involved in a player that can make a difference in the character of your lineup. And that, to me, Chris Kreider is that kind of guy.
Yeah, I wonder whether, if you're gone to this point as a potential free agent, whether he would sign a deal elsewhere. I mean, you get to the free agency point and, then he'll have the whole league to look at if he wants to. I mean, I have no idea. I haven't talked to Matt Cater, his agent, but, would he like to go back closer to Massachusetts? Is there a team that he has that he wants to go to? So I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd guess he'd be, unless they hit it out of the ballpark with an offer, right. I'd guess he'd be hard to re-sign right now when it's so close to free agency.
Remember, the one difference is that if he signs with his existing team, he can sign an 8-year contract if that's the level he wants to go to, as opposed to a 7-year contract if he goes that.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, that's certainly fair. I get that. But it seems to me that a lot of contracts lately have been sort of adjusted to. It's just the total. The dollar amount is now the most important thing rather than the length of the contract. So, anyway, all right. Well, let's go to my second one. I'm going to call out Ken Holland and. In Edmonton, I think he needs to act boldly here as well. I mean, I see a situation where we have the most exciting player in the game who may not make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I think the fans in Edmonton and the fans in hockey deserve to see Connor McDavid in the postseason. And I think they've got to do everything in their power, they being the management team led by Ken Holland, to get this team in the playoffs.
Yep.
They've missed, what is it, 12 out of 13? I lose track now because they've been so bad.
Yep.
But they've missed the playoffs 12 out of 13 times. They're in danger of missing again. It's pretty clear. It's a similar situation. Not a little bit different. They need to add a scorer too in Edmonton, but they need to shore up. And I think their goaltending it doesn't measure up.
Yep.
So I think Ken Holland has to go out and stick his nose in the Robin Lehner situation.
Ooh.
I think he's got to stick his nose in the either Toffoli or one of those scorers maybe a Pajot out of Ottawa. They need a third center as well, and maybe look at a defenseman as well. And you got to go for it at some point. You can't just keep being in a continual building mode. You got to say to your fans, look, you deserve some playoff hockey here. And who knows? Like, if you get in the playoffs with Draisaitl and Connor McDavid leading the way,
if you got a goaltender too,
if you have a goaltender, that's key. Yep. And I don't know, Smith and Koskinen, it's not doing it for me.
No, I agree totally with the goaltending. It's not getting it done. Tough one to do though, right? I mean, you go Carey Price. I like the Leonard idea, but I do agree with you. They've got to do something there. They've got those two great young players. But
and look, like, I'm not naive. A lot of times fans just say, well, you got to go out and get this guy and that guy. It's not easy to accomplish.
Yeah,
but totally. Ken Holland is a veteran general manager. There are a number of players out there, some of whom aren't going to cost an arm and a leg. Mm-hmm. Some will, but if you can just upgrade your defense a little bit, if you can find the one scorer, if you can get a goalie, like the goalie market, like how big is it? Like, it's not super large. Like, if Chicago decides to move Robin Lehner, Edmonton's going to have to outbid two teams probably at best, maybe Carolina. Yep. So I don't know. I think it's time for the Oilers to, and we have a roadmap. We saw last year what the Columbus Blue Jackets did, and I will defend Kekalainen's decision on that, forever and a day. It was right decision for that marketplace. Yeah. That marketplace needed to get in the playoffs, and when they got in, they got excited, and then they knocked off the Tampa Bay Lightning. I see the Oilers in a very similar situation. The marketplace needs them to get in the playoffs. The league needs them to get in the playoffs, and I think you got to go for it. I think you just say, this is it. We're all in. Our chips are in. We're going to go out. We're going to get 2 or 3 players that are going to help us, and we're going to try to get into the playoffs and make a run.
So you're one for 2. I mean, obviously your Toronto was way off base, but we'll give you the 1 for 2. All right. So you're all right with Edmonton. All right. So my next one then is the Nashville Predators. David Poile has done it. Now I know times are different, but David Poile has done it before. You think way back to when he was with the Washington Capitals, he made the big Rod Langway trade, right? I mean, it was multiplayer trade with the Montreal Canadiens. And again, yes, it is much tougher now with the cap and these long-term contracts and everything. But to me, that lineup he has put together, and we have talked about it so many times, just does not cut it for me. It's just the talent is there, but it is entirely the wrong mix. They've changed the coach. It still doesn't work. And we've talked about this too. We all think the world of David Poile as a person and as a general manager. He's done some fantastic things, but I think he's missed the mark. I just think of Matt Duchene. I don't think he's that. I don't think he fits in. I think there's too much of the Matt Duchene kind of guy already with the Nashville Predators. Ryan Johansson, I like him a lot as a player, but it's the same kind of thing. It just doesn't seem that they've got enough of the the Patrice Bergeron mentality, where it's, coming to play, being a professional, talented guys. But I just think David Poile has got to change the culture of that team. And, if he can pull off, a big, 2 for 2 kind of deal where it's some big name players moving to really change the way that team plays, to wake people up there and say, listen, this is a great place to play in Nashville, but you're not going to stay here if you're not going to fit in and have more of a culture, a winning culture. Than we do right now, because to me, it's just not working. It's not the talent, it's not the coaches. You've shown that. It's that locker room. It's a mentality amongst the players. It's just not getting it done, and he's got to make a big move.
I like that too. And basically, what you're saying, you want him to make a hockey trade. You want him to go out and trade some of the guys on his team, guys that you don't think are, have a winning. Attitude. Should we call it an attitude, or just not maybe an understanding? They don't have the winning understanding.
Yeah. So, it's fine. Like, I think when you've got a culture around your team, like the St. Louis Blues do right now, you can maybe bring in a player that hasn't quite found that mentality about what it takes to win, because you can bring him into that winning locker room. He's going to learn pretty quickly. Okay, this is how it's done. This is how St. Louis has done it. Bring me into Pittsburgh, and now I know how it's done. But that's just not there in Nashville right now. So when you bring in players that maybe haven't learned how to win yet, they're bringing into a culture where the culture itself has not, of that team hasn't learned how to win yet. So that's a tough one to do. So I just think he's got to make some big moves to change things around.
You got any guys in mind? Have you pinpointed anybody that you'd like him to go after among those that are floating around out there?
Yeah, I mean, I get we use the Chris Kreider mentality, and again, this I would say that kind of a guy. If he was signed to, I don't think he makes a rent to go for a rental. I think I'd like to see him get him locked up, but to me, like the Kyle Turrises, the Matt Duchene's on that lineup, those are the kind of guys. Now, again, bigger contracts, tougher deals to do, but those kind of guys to me are the guys that I think he's made mistakes with, that don't fit, that don't help build that culture there in Nashville. You got to move. So if you're going to move those kind of guys, you should be getting, to me, either some really good young prospects, draft picks, and some players that are current players. Like maybe, like, it sounds kind of strange to say this, but almost downgrade your skill level, increase your character level. Like I mentioned, Patrice Bergeron. You're not going to get a Patrice Bergeron, but maybe there's some player out there that teams wouldn't have even thought about trading. But if they say to themselves, we really like Matt Duchene and Kyle Turris, and we think they can fit into our culture that we've got here better. So maybe now a player that wasn't even thought of to be traded before now becomes available. And maybe one of these cities that's, maybe like a St. Louis, maybe like a Tampa Bay that's got a wealth of talent, those kind of trades.
Yeah. Can you change the culture? I mean, last year, Berube took over in November, and in St. Louis in January, they hadn't figured it out yet. I don't know when, I would guess it was February when they started turning around. But anyway, can you do it from February on?
Yes, there's no question you can. I mean, it's one of those things that, players, and I feel uncomfortable saying this because I was a player. You look back at your career now, like I do, and I think, geez, I wish I could have gotten more out of my career. And I think almost every player can say that. There's very few players that say that they've got everything out of the career. Sometimes you fall into that. You're hanging around with the same guys all the time. You fall into that trap that, you're complaining about this, complaining about that, instead of just saying, listen, I don't care about that stuff. I want to, when I'm done the game, I want to know that I've got the most out of my career. Right. And sometimes when you're stuck in the middle of it, you forget that. Right. And you need to have these other guys come into your locker room that are maybe older players that have been through that, or more character guys. Like you look at it to me like a Ryan O'Reilly kind of guy with his work ethic, those kind of guys. So yes, I definitely think you can change the culture of your team. Is it easy to do? No, it's not. But something big that wakes the team up and says, listen, Nashville's a fantastic place to play. It almost appears that these guys just think, well, I'm here in Nashville. It's great to play here. We're a good hockey team. I'm going to be here the rest of my career. No, you're not. You need to perform. To me, that's kind of stuff that really shakes up the team and allows now the coach to come in and say, guys, listen, it's time to wake up. We need to do things differently here. It just isn't working. Yeah,
I mean, I like the framework of what you're saying. I just don't know that you can accomplish it, in a mid-season, trade. Like, Berube, it wasn't because of a trade that he just sort of changed the attitude of everybody, and that's changing the culture. But what I would say is, I would agree that the Predators need to do something, but I would suggest they need to bring in some guys that have won before and start there, and then maybe do the overhaul of the culture and sort of change the attitude in the off season.
Yeah, my problem is though that you're not. I think if you wait, to me, if you don't bring in players that have won, I don't know. I just feel like, are you really going to change that culture by just bringing in some winning players? Like those guys that are again, I hate to keep picking on the same guys, but the Matt Duchene that's on a long-term deal now, that's just feeling comfortable in Nashville, who to me just has not, like, to sign a player to that contract that he got, he should be stepping up and making a difference. He shouldn't be accepting the way he's playing nor the way the team's playing. That team should be saying, we're here to win. Who are we kidding? Look at our lineup. We can't win with this lineup. People are questioning our goaltending. It's not goaltending. It's the issue. It's the way we're playing our game. So to me, to me, it's just got to be something. The way they're set up right now, I just don't see things changing. It's got to be something that's big to shake it up. And that's why I think, and I hear what you're saying with the trades, the timing of them, but some of these teams, as they're, making decisions and saying, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs, or we need to now regroup and, get younger players, whether it's whoever it is, in Anaheim or Rangers or whatever it is. See, to me, wow, there's going to be some players that are available that can really help change the culture of your team.
Yeah, they can be, but I don't see them making a deal on February 25th and bringing in guys and within a month's time.
Well, that's true. So do it today, right?
Yeah, two guys.
Yep.
Like how many can you bring in?
I agree.
So I just think it's hard. I like the framework of what you're saying. I just don't know that you can do it. I think the St. Louis situation was special because I think they had the inner workings. I think Berube understood that team could be hard to play against.
Yeah.
They changed the way they play.
Yep.
And he just got them to buy in, as opposed to, what you're saying is we're going to bring in, at most probably two guys and ask them to change the culture of the team.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's not just bringing in those two guys. It's the magnitude of the trade, the people that are traded away. See, I'm just getting the sense when I watch Nashville, there's too much of that thinking that, okay, I'm a Nashville Predator for life. This is a great place to play. I'm comfortable. You need to shake up that, get out of the comfort zone. So it isn't just the two guys. It's the statement that trade makes too.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I sort of believe greatly in, culture being important. I'm just not so sure that it's going to be easily accomplished with that team. But let's hit a couple other things before we get out of here. I can't believe how quickly this half hour has gone. But, you sent me a question today before the show, and it really resonated because we saw other teams react, particularly the Vegas Golden Knights, when they saw a coach available they wanted. And you said, why doesn't Gerard Gallant have a job yet?
Right.
And I understand that, but I think the teams that were all going to make a change have done that. I think that's the problem. But give me your take on that about who should have, jumped on him.
Well, I'm looking at the Calgary Flames. I'm going, are you kidding me? Why? I mean, talk about a guy. Now, no disrespect to Jeff Ward, has stepped in there after they fired Peters because of stuff he did, and they've been okay. But to me, even if they're okay, and this is going to sound awful towards Ward that's there, filling in, or maybe he becomes a full-time coach. I just think so highly of Gerard Gallant. I'm not as concerned with how my team is doing currently with this coach. I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this coach our long-term coach? Or do I think a Gerard Gallant is better for not just for now, but for our long-term? And to me, I watching what Gerard Gallant did in Florida, watching what he did in Vegas there. And again, not just the record, it's to me how he gets the most out of his players. That's what I want. Like it's that Craig Berube mentality, how it's not about him. It's not about Craig Berube. It's not about Gerard Gallant. It's how they make it about their players and getting the most out of their players and getting the players to play as a team. So to me, if I'm Calgary, I'm going, I want this guy now because he's the right coach for now and for the future. So that's the team that kind of jumps out at me when I look at. You're right. All the other teams, LA Kings are too far down. They are out of it, and other teams have made changes already. But to me, if I'm Calgary, I'm going I want this guy. This is a Calgary kind of guy. This is early in the season they weren't getting the most out of the players. Again, now it's improved, but man, I still think having him out there and not grabbing him is a big mistake.
Well, let's end it with this. Of the four teams that we've talked about that we think can make change: Minnesota, Nashville, Toronto, and Edmonton. How many of those teams are going to make the playoffs?
So if they currently stay the way they are, Minnesota and Nashville are not going to. I believe Toronto should make the playoffs. And I think Edmonton will squeak in. I think when you've got McDavid, they'll squeak in the playoffs. So I think your two teams will, my two teams will not.
Yeah, I do think the Oilers and Maple Leafs are going to do something. I've heard through the grapevine that both of them are kicking tires out there. So I think they'll do something. They may not do. The Maple Leafs may not do as much as I want them to do, nor the Oilers. But I think they're both going to do something. I think both of them understand the need to
I hear you, but I just think Toronto feels like, I think Kyle Dubas feels like that's the team he wanted to assemble. He thinks that team can win. If that's the case, like if I'm Kyle Dubas and I put that team together and I think that can win, I'm not making any changes. I think that's a good enough lineup to win. And he's got the coach he wants there now too.
I'll be willing to bet you Buffalo Nickel they're going to make a move.
Big move or small move?
It's a significant move. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're going to get somebody big.
What are we betting?
Whatever.
How about tequila salad? How about that?
Yeah, tequila salad. Definitely. That sounds great. Anyway, you've all been listening to the Laidlaw and Allen Report. I'm Alan. He's Laidlaw. We'll be back next week.
See you guys.